joining us for Voices of Impact, inspiring the leadership of girls of color. My name is Tiffany Taylor, and while I am a proud native Detroiter and currently serve as Teach for America's National Vice President and Deputy Chief People Officer, I'm here with you today as a proud board member of Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Detroit. This panel is first a celebration of the grand opening of Boys Hope, Girls Hope Detroit's reimagined Hope House. But it also identifies voices of a next generation of leaders of Black women who are vanguards in their own right, trailblazing to ensure that the generation after them have the support to continue a tradition of leadership of the likes of Shirley Chisholm, Angela Davis, Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, and countless others. I'd love to introduce my co-host and executive director for Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Detroit, Dr. Patrice Johnson. Patrice started her service as the vice mayor of Muskegon Heights, Michigan, and has since continued to be a change agent in both political and educational landscapes. Dr. Johnson is also the author of 2 faith-based nonfiction books, is active in her community, all while ensuring Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Detroit experiences a strategic resurgence that builds on the foundation that was created over 35 years ago. Patrice, I will turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about Boys Hope, Girls Hope of Detroit.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon for a very important topic as we continue the legacy of women of color and their leadership. It's critical and important, especially now that we encourage young girls to lead. And so Boys Hope Girls of Detroit is a platform to ensure that we have a safe space to have that conversation. But I want to share a little bit about Boys Hope Girls of Detroit. Our mission is to help young people reach their full potential, young people who face systemic barriers like racism or poverty or gender inequity. These young people have the potential to change the world, and it's our goal as an organization to provide the resources and the access that they need to, one, get to college and go through and get a bachelor's degree, and then also to return to the city that they're from, the city of Detroit, and give back and become service-oriented leaders. So that is our mission. That's what we've been doing for the last 35 years. And we do that through very unique ways. One is through our Hope House, but we also have after-school academy-based programs with 3 phenomenal partnership schools, as well as operating our Collegiate Success Program. But today we're focusing in on the grand opening, a virtual grand opening of our Girls House. And I can't think of a better way of celebrating by being joined by other women of color, vanguards, significant, amazing leaders in this city to help us kick off this celebration.
All right, well, thanks, Patrice. So over the last several days, dynamic leaders from across the city who have led as school district leaders, nonprofit executives, and city officials have taken a moment to pause, reflect, and share words of wisdom and lessons learned for the next generation of Brown and Black girls in our city. Women such as Rochelle Riley, Brenda Belcher, Dr. Kimberly Bland, Lauren Claiborne, Rebecca Limbaugh, and Micheline Thacker-Mann reminded our girls and all of us to be true to ourselves, to remember our ancestors and the responsibility that comes from standing on their shoulders, to stand strong in our faith, and to always work to prepare the way for the little girls coming behind us. Today, we're going to hear from more dynamic women from across our city as they reflect on what it means to lead as Black women, what they've learned on their own journeys, and what their greatest hopes are for the next generation coming behind them. Today we have Shadora Ford, who is the founder and CEO of Destined for Greatness Mentoring Initiative that serves young ladies from ages 11 to 12, and she's currently employed with the City of Detroit's Mayor's Office as a representative for District 4 in the Department of Neighborhoods. We have Kiesha Jackson, who is the founder and executive director of Caleb's Kids. Under her leadership, Caleb's Kids has provided scholarships to high school seniors, sponsored holiday care and wellness benefits for surviving families of suicide loss, and has provided life-changing outreach, materials, and workshops to thousands of Detroit area youth and parents. And last but not least, we have Dr. Ashley Johnson, who is the executive director of the Detroit College Access Network. DCAN is a network of cross-sector leaders and organizations working to ensure all Detroit students have the opportunity to attend and complete college. Some of these women are former educators, first-generation college students, Block Club presidents, board members, and between them, they have received over 3 dozen awards that honors their impact. Welcome, ladies. I am truly humbled to be in community with all of you. So I love to start our conversation off by talking about broadly. I think we've learned that leadership is not about the title you hold, the number of years of experience you have, or your proximity to power, but that it is an act that has to be chosen daily. My first question is, when did you first see yourself as a leader? Ashley, can you start us off with that one?
Well, it's a very interesting question. Sometimes I'm thinking about that and I'm reflecting on that. I remember in grad school, I had this class and it was about leadership. And the question for the entire class was, is leadership something that can be taught or is it something that's innate? Are you naturally born a leader? And it's kind of this question that's really perplexed my entire life. But when I think back, I think the first time I realized that I was a leader, I would have to say it was in high school. And so I'm assuming I'm around the age of many of the women and the women of the kids that you guys are trying to impact through Hope House, right? I remember just these experiences that I had that made me realize I was a leader. It was some simple things. So one was, a lot of people came to me for advice at a very young age, right? And I tried to always give them sound advice. People would tell me their secrets that they would tell no one else because they felt that it would be entrusted in me. So those were some of the things early on that I recognized, like, okay, those were initial early indications that that I'm a leader. I also was an avid basketball player. So I played sports, actually played sports in college. And so most of every team that I was on at some point in time, I was a team captain. So that was another thing that kind of makes me reflect on being a leader. I was a team captain and I remember just people, younger players on the team looking up to me, spending time with me, asking me, hey, can you be my shooting partner? Can you work with me on this afterwards? That kind of a thing. And so I would say like it really started in my teenage years when I really began to think, to see myself emerge as a leader.
I love that. So people trusting you, right?
Yeah. People trusting you. You may not get to the point where you're leading the whole organization at 15, but there are small indications and those things become, transferable skills that you can use and develop as you begin to rise in leadership.
I love that. Anyone else? When did you first see yourself as a leader?
Yeah, kind of similar to Ashley. When I think about being a leader, I always reflect, like, what is it about Kiesha that makes her want to just run towards a crisis instead of running away from a crisis? And where does that come from? And what does that look like? And I start thinking about like my childhood, even as far back as the fourth grade. I always strive to do things that was different than everyone else, even something as simple as picking a musical instrument. So in the fourth grade, my school started string instruments. The majority of my friends picked the violin. I picked the cello. It was bigger than me. It was different. It was going against the grain, and really using that experience to leverage excelling in everything that I did and working hard, and then using my abilities to excel to bring up others through that, and really to help guide others and change the perspective of what it was to be an African-American woman in classical music, and to change that perspective of what that meant for others who maybe didn't get a chance to experience Blacks in classical music on a day-to-day basis. So I would say for me, leadership started at an early age. When I look back on it, around the fourth grade, when I, really started to do things different in order to change the perspective of how I look to others.
I love that. So breaking the mold, starting with that in fourth grade with the cello. I love it.
Yes.
What about you, Shadora?
I would say, and concur with Kiesha and Ashley. For me, it was about fourth or fifth grade where my impact as a leader did not start positively. So I remember being in like fifth grade, and I'm an only child, so I was always bigger than everybody. So they always had brothers and sisters. So when I got into it with one sister, like I had to like argue with all of them. So I would strategically make friends with upperclassmen because we were in the middle elementary school. So my people on my block, my friends in my neighborhood lived in my area. So they quickly became my independent cousins anytime I got into an argument with someone. So at that time, I had the 6th and 7th grade girls to start a gang. I even researched the name for it. We called ourselves La Familia, which means family, and we were like the family. So whenever someone in my classroom, which we was like in 5th grade, wanted to like argue or fight, I was like, okay, I'm going to get the gang. And so I think that implant of something that was supposed to end negatively for me, growing up in such an impoverished neighborhood and community, I really feel like when I was 19, when I started Destined for Greatness mentoring, and I thought I was just helping one girl, and now helping over 5,000 girls later to date. I really felt like that was my opportunity, and that was my inclination that I would be a leader. And so today I'm just like, that's my why. My why and my reason is because of my past, my present, and my future of where I'm headed. So
I love that. You were building community and building coalitions around you at an early age. I appreciate that. Patrice, this is one I want to hear from everyone. What about you? When did you first see yourself as a leader?
Thank you for asking, Tiffany. I first saw myself as a leader when I recognized the inequality between my school district and the school district that was across the street. And I think I developed a righteous anger about things such as injustice around, 6th grade, 7th grade, and began to write about it. I still have my 6th grade newspaper article. I was frustrated with the school district because they were firing, or they weren't giving the teachers in the district their new contracts, right? And so, of course, in 6th grade, you don't know all the details, but the title of the newspaper article was "What's Happening in Our Community." And ironically, as a 6th grader, the exact same topic that I was talking about came back up in my dissertation as a 30-year-old, right?
I love it.
So I think then it was seeing that something was not right and wanting to discuss it, whether it be writing or speaking about it. But there was an anger that was righteous as a 6th grader that still sticks with me right now.
I love that. So we had righteous anger, right, that empowered you to use your voice. We had Shadora building coalitions, right, to not only to protect yourself, but you turn that strategy and that skill into what you are leading and the impact that you're having. And Kiesha was breaking the mold, and Ashley was standing as a trusted advisor early on in her high school career. And so when you think back on your leadership journey, I'd love to hear, Shadora, from you first. What sacrifices have accompanied your leadership?
Many to name. First of all, being 19 and being predominantly from a Black community where drugs and infestation of poverty was right in the midst, and my mom not wanting me to go off to the military, which I thought at 14, 15, 16, that was my only option. I always said, if you want me to live, you'll let me go. And I graduated at 17. My mom didn't want me to leave and go off to the military like most moms don't want their girls to. But I kind of thought that was my only option. But I sacrificed my time. I sacrificed a lot of my negative thoughts, and times where I could have been partying with my friends. I could have been on the block just chilling and sitting up in somebody's car. I could have been, at somebody's house or laying up. And I sacrificed, all of that to be where I am today, to help others, to smash the statistics, to become a woman, a Black woman of color, and be a leader in such a time as this. My sacrifices were many.
Thank you, Shadora. What about you, Kiesha? What sacrifices?
Yeah, similar to Shadora, when I think about my sacrifices, it really involves time, but also opportunity and experiences socially. Like, I knew that I had goals to accomplish. I knew that there were people that I needed to lead and people that I needed to help, but that involved like being very strategic about my time, being very strategic about my interests, and making those sacrifices early on so that I can be the person that I am today. And that meant not playing outside with my friends, but being inside reading or practicing my cello. That meant sacrificing my summers to bettering myself and to taking on different community projects, even at a young age. So it is the time and the social aspects that came with the sacrifice along the way to be able to be the person that I am today.
Appreciate that. Ashley or Patrice, anything coming to mind?
Sure. So I think similar. Like I said, I was in high school, I played sports, and, I, have gone on to get 11 years of education afterwards. And I feel like, honestly, the same commitments I made at an early age are the same ones I'm making now. But one is just like you just stated, like everybody else is outside kicking it, having fun, and I'm in here shooting 100 shots in the gym, literally. My summers, every one of my summers were spent traveling. And I mean, it paid off. I did get a basketball scholarship, but again, it became a transferable skill. So throughout my life, I went away to college, and everybody else stayed in my hometown, like everybody. And so a lot of those deep relationships, when I would come back, like, my cousins, I have, probably like 20 female cousins that are within 5 years of me. So we're all very, very close, and none of them went away to college. So whenever I came back, I always kind of felt like an outsider within my own family. And I think that's another sacrifice that people don't necessarily talk about, is whenever you, as an African-American female or an African-American person in general, whenever you reach a certain level of success, even people within your family, not necessarily because you did anything wrong, it could be because of the way they personally feel about themselves, there becomes like some issues there. And sometimes you have to make sacrifices there, right? I can't go there, those same places y'all want to go, because if I get in trouble, then I'm losing everything, I can't ride around like that, like y'all want to ride around, because, if we get pulled over by the police, this and this and this might happen. So I think there's just a lot of sacrifices that you have to make, especially as a young person. I think those ages of, 16 to 24 are super, super very important years in your life, and they really set the foundation. Either at 25 to 35, you're building on that foundation, or you're trying to go back and correct some of the mistakes you made before then, right? And so if you can make the right decisions around that time frame, and most of the time it's don't do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
There's this one photo that has like this huge long line of people in it, and then there's like this very, very 3 people in this other line. And so I really pride my life on being in the other line. Because most of the time when people are lined up to do that thing, that's instant gratification. It's not going to pay off for my long-term goals and success and where I want to go. Yes. And so I would say time and time again, picking to be in that short line, picking to take that road less traveled. And unfortunately, this day and age, if you look around and there are a lot of people with you, you might not be in the right place. Yes. But if you look around, there's only a few with you, and they're people who you strive to be like, you're in the right place. And so those are the kind of sacrifices and mindset shifts that you have to make to be successful.
I love that. Sacrificing that instant gratification. I'm sure that it has played a role in each one of your lives at some point or another. So reconciling the impact that you drive towards as a leader with the sacrifices that accompany your leadership, it requires intentionality. So given all that you sacrifice, what motivates you to lead? On the days that you do not want to get out of bed, what motivates you to wake up anyway and get after what you're driving towards? Kiesha, can you start?
Yeah, so the realm that I'm in with leadership is in the mental health realm. So the motivation for me is that my work literally saves lives. So for anyone to accomplish your goals, your mental health has to be intact. For you to do anything in life, your mental health is really the basis and foundation of your life's outcomes. So knowing that I play such a critical role in educating youth, educating parents, educating adults on mental health, teaching them different wellness skills, teaching them how to go and get help if their wellness skills isn't working or if they're in crisis, that's what motivates me to start this journey every day, because it's not about me. It's about saving lives and pouring into the lives of the community around me and ensuring that we all are taking the steps mentally to help elevate our outcomes further. And by elevating our outcomes now, it elevates the outcomes for generations to come.
Appreciate that, Kiesha, because I think that's one of the sacrifices that we didn't lift up, right? Our physical and our emotional, our mental well health and our well-being sometimes is something we have to sacrifice when we're doing this work, and that's not always a conversation that we dive always into deeply. So I appreciate you lifting that up.
Thank you.
Anything else coming up to mind when folks think about what motivates you, what keeps you going, what allows you to get out of bed on those days when you are just exhausted and tired and saying, I've had enough and I need a moment to pause?
I would say for me, it's two things. One, that I was almost a mere statistics, and a lot of people had counted me out, and pretty much was like, oh, she's gonna have a bunch of children, she's gonna do this, and so that's one thing. Getting up to say, hello, haters, how are you today? Have a great one. That's one of my ways. That one of the things that pretty much motivate me. Two is my youth and their families. Just seeing the girls, like the smiles on their faces, the impact, the text messages, I'm a sister, I'm a mama, I'm an auntie, like everything. I even had girls' mom call me during the time of the senior pinning before the pandemic hit, and I was able to pin my girls. And moms who felt like I played a major role because these girls had very, very low GPAs, got in the program, we worked with them, provided the resources necessary, and they came up. I have one that even has a 3.8. Who's going to get a scholarship from Destined for Greatness. So I think that really motivates me to get up, knowing that if I don't get up, a baby might not get fed. They might not have baby milk or might not get diapers and wipes. So all of the resources that we provide and all of the souls and people that we meet, those people help me get up in the morning when I don't feel like it, when I'm absolutely tired. Those people is why I'm serving on Thursday, which is my birthday, and I'm gonna take a week off. But those people are the people who motivate me to do things that I do.
I appreciate that, the impact, knowing that your gifts and your talents and the work of your hands, right, is making a difference in the lives of others. And I'm not mad at you. When I was 11, someone said the same thing, told me I just looked like I was gonna have a lot of babies. And I don't know if it was because I grew up near Southeastern or what have you, but those messages can sometimes be used as fuel. So I'm with you. Patrice, what about you?
I think it's the conviction. I remember when I first started my work with Boys Hope, Girls Hope, I would just kind of get up in the middle of the night like, man, I got to make something shake. I got to, some type of impact has to happen, And I think that first year, I wasn't 100% sure on the vision. And then, of course, the Girls' House kind of came about, this idea of creating a new space for girls. But I think I wrestled with making sure that the vision came to pass. And I think God wouldn't let me rest until it happens, And so that's what it was for me. It was the conviction of making sure that I did the work and did it honorably. It's kind of that scripture that says, do your work as though you're doing it unto God. And so for a while, particularly in this role, I couldn't rest until I felt sure that I was going to have the type of impact that would outlast me.
So many of us were taught at a young age that being Black and being a woman is truly a gift, but it also comes with challenges that we would have to face daily. As a leader, how do you navigate spaces that are predominantly white and predominantly male? And Patrice, I'd love to hear from you first on that.
Woo, Tiffany. So here's my thought. Oftentimes, I think we try to do 110% because the spaces particularly ostracize folks that look like us, right? So we have to show up to spaces, and as my old band director used to say, you got to work twice as hard. And it's very much true. In order to even put your pinky toe in the door, you have to be twice as good, work twice as hard, have twice the credentials, right? With that being said, I think that I try to just do my absolute best and almost ignore the forces that were linked to racial inequality and gender inequality. But the fact of the matter is that those things are real, that you will walk into spaces that are trickled with oppression and trickled with people who look at you and think of you as a stereotype and who do not see you for your full value. That is in fact true. However, the way you navigate that is you play that up to your strength, because they do not see you coming. I received some wisdom from one of my mentors who told me they don't expect you to be that great. That's why you're not getting the level of support that you should probably get. And that's okay, because then you just show up anyway in your fullness, and people have to then recognize that fullness.
Yes. I love that. They don't expect you to be that great, and you use that, right, as a strength. Any other thoughts on this question?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what Patrice said, another big thing too is showing up confidently and boldly every day, but also having in mind how the perception of how I come off to others, and coming off as a strong woman, but also not too strong to where now someone doesn't want to work with me because they feel that, oh, I may have an attitude or I may be difficult to work with. So it's always keeping that part of like the essence of being a Black woman in mind, but also in that room when I'm walking into the room, scanning to see, like, based on my conversations, based on my interactions, based on body language of the room, who do I feel is going to be my ally here? And really working to build a bridge with that person, because that person will be very instrumental in helping to change the perspectives of those around. Because I'm very confident about the work I do. I know the work that we do helps people. I know the work that we do is needed. And it's my job as a leader to convince others and to show others the value in the work that we do, so that I let the work speak for us. And you may not like me, you may not like me, but you like the work that I put out and the work that I produce, and you also want to help, these same outcomes that I want to help. So really using that to leverage how the environment changes in those spaces.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Kiesha. Ashley or Shadora, any thoughts here?
I would say for me, working in the mayor's office and being a part of the NLC and BME and a lot of different awesome and amazing organizations, I always go in confident yet authentic, and my truths are on the table at that point. And you're gonna love me or you're gonna just work with me. However, we're gonna get the job done. That's just how it is. But at the end of the day, a lot of these spaces I go into, and if you don't have a degree, you're shunned. You're not a part of this world. You're not a part of this network. Well, I don't have a degree. I have a degree in life. I have a lot of experiences. I've been a lot of places. I've met a lot of people. I've sat at the table with people who I would have thought it was impossible with the stereotype that they have, or the whatever they have for people who don't have certain degrees or whatever. But I go in confident, I go in authentic, and I go in letting my truth be told. I am here for a purpose, for my people, and for my passion. Now let's get this work done. And sometimes for other people it may not be so easy, but for me, grace and favor.
I love it. Grace and favor. Yes.
Yeah, for me, I'd say very kind of a little bit different probably from most of you guys. I actually was born and raised in a predominantly white space, right? And so I never had a Black teacher until I got to college, as an example. Like I never saw a Black person with a college degree until I got to college, like literally, right? And so, wait, maybe there was a PE teacher, literally one PE teacher in my high school years. And so, I was the only Black person in majority of my classes, especially if I was in AP and honors classes. Through sports, I've been the only Black person on the team, right? And had to be the captain. So and then we made a very interesting decision about where I went and got my degree, but I went to the University of Mississippi, which people deem as one of the most racist institutions in the country, right? And so I can tell you all about all kinds of experiences there, but I feel like my entire life has been, in those types of spaces. So I think I'm pretty good at navigating them, right? For a couple of different reasons. I think you have to be careful of how you allow mass media to impact you. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes when we walk into a space, just the same thing that people do to us, we do to them, right? We assume automatically because they're a white male, they're an enemy, or they may not be on the same page as us, or they may want to tear us down, or they see us as a threat, got all these types of things. And so the best possible thing you can always do is go into a space like aware, but not letting it like hinder your perception, right? And always trying to bring like a open perception of what can actually be done in those different spaces. That's one. And then two, I mean, there's common ground for everything. Okay. Everybody loves sports. I talk about sports, right? There are a couple topics I never talk about with certain people. And there are other topics that, you know, I talk about. As a classroom teacher, I was a former educator, and I still use this in leadership. My ultimate goal by 2 months in was to be able, every student that walked across my classroom door, to be able to say something personal about them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he works at Walmart. I saw you at Walmart the other day, or he goes to this church. I'm going to come down to your church. Like, making that personal connection beyond the work has gone really far for me. And I tend to do the same thing in my leadership, regardless of what someone looks like. I try to make that personal connection beyond the work. And I found that has really creates a bridge, right? And puts us on the same ground. It helps us remember that we're all human, and that we're all, most of the time, after the same things. And so really having that personal connection or beyond the work, even if it's something as simple as that person loving golf, or that sports team they really like, or they have, you know, 2 children. How are your kids doing? And I found that has gone a long way for me in my leadership, and it has been a way that has really helped to break down walls that like prejudging or perception might bring.
Yeah. I appreciate that, because a lot of what you all are talking about is like, how do you navigate? And in some instances, how do you survive and thrive in spaces sometimes that were not built for us, because we are Black, because we are women, because we grew up in under-resourced communities. And what I recognize is that can be draining, right? Because sometimes it requires us to adapt and conform and contort in ways that is, one, not natural, but it actually takes something away from our voice and takes something away from our essence and our very being. And so one of the questions that I have, and Patrice and I were just talking about this, is like, what does it mean for you to have to show up and like not only adapt in some ways, but also have to point out, right, the inequity, right? That in itself, gearing up for the conversation, making sure, to Ashley's point, we're approaching it with an open mind, as if everyone can and wants to grow. Shadora, I would love for you to start us off by sharing, how do you protect your emotional health, right? Your emotional and mental well-being when you are tackling systems of oppression and navigating systems of oppression?
I would say first it starts with self. It starts with myself, my mental, my emotional, and my spiritual connections. If I'm not good for myself, then I'm definitely not good for others. I definitely believe that you should come into the health field with a wholeness of heart. You know, become whole first. Before you try to piece together other people's situations or help or whatnot. So I pray every day. I do it because of Kiesha and my Be Me sisters. Now I stretch. I get in my morning time, and I just like really just take breathing techniques a lot, so that I can, you know, learn how to diffuse situations, learn how to help other people, learn how to just navigate situations with a conscious mind. So I really think it depends on your spiritual, mental, and physical connections. And then in a lot of spaces, I show up knowing that I'm there for helping people. It's not about me. It's not for me. It's not about the advancement of destined for greatness. The name means nothing. The title means nothing. I'm just a person standing as a vessel to help the next person. So it's kind of like each one teach one, reach back and grab one. I'm here to help people survive and thrive in the same time. I just come as my authentic self.
I love that. So you're decentering self in one hand, but prioritizing self in the other. I love it. Yeah. Love it. It has to be a balance.
Similar to Shadora, I think a huge focus is also on your mental well-being and showing up as your best self, because if you aren't together yourself, then you can't be there for others. But to help really navigate that realm of protecting my emotional health, I also have a sounding board. So I have a group of women that I engage with regularly, that if I just need to run something by them, like, hey, you know, I'm walking into this meeting, I'm not feeling this type of way. help me process my thoughts. I have groups that have mixed gender in the group, where it's just a sounding board of multiple perspectives. I have groups that are very diverse groups to get like that perspective that can really help me think about, the meeting I'm walking into, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, but also help me process experiences that I've experienced. Because, I mean, we're all human. I could be looking at something completely different than the intent. So it's always good to have like that sounding board of people who can kind of support you, but also check you if you need checking too.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I call them my cabinet. I have a cabinet
Yes.
who love me but would tell me, Tiffany, have several seats. That was not what that was about. You are going all types of overboard.
Yes.
What comes up for you as it relates to protecting your emotional health and well-being?
So for me, three things really, but so two things. One is I try to practice gratefulness. So gratefulness is a part of my spiritual journey and a part of my spiritual walk. It's pretty much, it's probably one of the things that I center, it's one of my values, gratefulness. And so, having the opportunity to do work that I love, there's, everything that happens in that work is an opportunity for me to grow. Right. And so just practicing gratefulness, because there's so many people in the world who don't have the opportunity to wake up and make money doing what they love. They still got to feed their family, but they don't get to do what they love. And we do. Right. And so practicing gratefulness and just being grateful to be there and just reminding myself of that keeps me really emotionally stable, I think, because even in the worst of times, there's several things that you can be grateful for. And so just, I wake up and I practice that, and I go to bed and I practice that, and I practice that all the time. And every time my mind wants to say something negative, I think about 2 or 3 things that I'm grateful for. So really just controlling that. And I think the other thing for me is failure is an opportunity to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's great when I win, and I love to win. I wish I could win every day, all day, but we don't always get to win, and recognizing that and recognizing failure as an opportunity to grow. And as soon as I did that and I changed my perception about what it means to fail, everything in my life just got better. And it was like a perception change. Okay, this didn't go right, but how can I reflect on myself about what I need to do better and how I can get better? Otherwise, I think it's the failures and the perceived failures, like what other people think about us or what other people perceive us as being successful or not, all those types of things. Are we leading this organization to the best of our ability according to this person or that person, right? But whenever you are really centered and you understand that no matter what the situation is, it's always an opportunity to grow. Mm-hmm. Even that feedback from that person, it's just, it's just an opportunity for me to grow. I'll be so much better next year, right? Or next time around. I think I keep those 2 things centered, and it helps keep my mind in the right place, because my emotional health is driven by my self-talk. And I think a lot of people do. And if you can learn to control your self-talk and what you say to yourself, because that's what really matters, right? The better off you'll be. So I found that gratefulness helps me do that, and perceiving most opportunities as an opportunity to grow, whether they be, a success or a failure.
I love it. So maintaining that posture of gratitude and seeing the lesson in the failure. I love it. Patrice, what about you?
I have to concur with everything that the ladies said, which I think because we all have very similar ways in which we invest in our emotional stability as women of color. That's essential to why we built the house the way we built it, because we want to show our girls or teach our girls how to develop the skills these women have developed in their capacity today. But how can we teach the next generation, Generation Z, and the girls that are going to be in our house, how do you develop those skills at a young age so that they don't have to break habits? For me, to develop healthy emotional wellness, I had to break unhealthy habits.
Yeah.
I had to create new systems for myself. So, as Kiesha said, have a committee, have a sounding board, have a community of people who keep me in check, who encourage me, and also be grateful. I think everything that the women said, to Shadora's comment around maintaining that sense of well-being, All of these things are important. I think we've learned them on our leadership journey. My goal in my heart, for the Girls House is to ensure that these young ladies are taught these lessons earlier on.
Appreciate that. So, ladies, according to a report presented by the Obama administration, girls of color experience disproportionately higher rates of school suspension and disciplinary action in schools. And we all know suspensions for Black girls are higher than white boys and girls of any other race or ethnicity. So thinking about this context, and just recently, a 15-year-old Black girl was incarcerated during the pandemic after a judge ruled that not completing her schoolwork violated her probation. I think it begs the question, why is it important for us to have safe spaces for our girls to thrive? And Patrice, just given the work that you're leading, I'd love to hear from you first on this one.
Just as I mentioned before, I think girls of color, because they face systemic oppression and systems of injustice more often, as the data suggests, even in the classroom at 15 years old or 12 years old, they're seen based off of their skin color. They're seen less than or less valuable than their counterparts, right? And I think that's why it's so critical that they have a safe space where they can fully be themselves. I think that the systems in which we live automatically penalizes girls for behaviors that are actually their tools of resilience, right? So oftentimes our girls are reflecting various behaviors that are not really bad behaviors. They're survival skills, right? They're survival tactics. And so how do we engage our young girls in a way that empowers them and the skills that they develop because they face these different types of obstacles, as opposed to penalizing them? And so the Girls House really reflects an environment where, one, we're going to embrace you as you are, and then we're going to put you in a position to develop those leadership skills in a way that you're going to be dynamic. And we need those girls to be dynamic right now. We're looking at our environment, we're looking at our political and social landscape, and we need your lead right now.
Love that. Anyone else have thoughts on this last question?
I agree with Patrice. I think there's not opportunity for us to make errors or make mistakes, and we all grow from making mistakes. That's how we become, better. But, as a person of color in America, you can't make a mistake. You can't, unfortunately, because you making a small, simple mistake such as something like that is the difference of going to jail versus maybe somebody else that's not of color making that mistake and writing a college essay about it and getting into an Ivy League school. Seriously, like that is that different. And I think that's why Patrice's work and your work is so valuable, because you're creating a safe space to grow and make mistakes and have errors. Like as a teenager, your frontal cortex is not fully developed anyways, right? You're going to make mistakes. It's just how it is. And it's just unfortunate. It drives me crazy that kids of color just they can't make mistakes in America. Mistake is a life or death decision, and it's completely unfair. They should have the opportunity to be children and grow and thrive and develop leadership. And some of developing leadership, as we all talked about, is failure, right? And making a mistake and making an error. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. I love that your house is going to create a space and a security net. That's the other thing, is the lack of a security net when you do make a mistake. Who's going to be there to catch you and pick you up and let you know that is a minor mistake. It does not define who you are, and it should not change the trajectory of your life, and our kids don't oftentimes have those types of things. And when we don't provide that as a family, and then they go out into a world that definitely doesn't have it, right, that is kind of looking to bring them down.
I really appreciate that, Ashley, because what happens when you don't have that support network and that safety net, the weight of the fear of taking risks, right, of trying new things, of going out there, of stepping out on faith, that weight sometimes holds back. And that carries through out into adulthood. And so it's hard to break it when you don't grow up with that type of support network. So I appreciate you lifting up what that weight can translate into. Kiesha, what about you?
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off what Patrice and Ashley both stated, when we look at America, business concepts, business ideas are built off the majority. Our education system is built off the majority. Even attractions socially are built off the majority. But in America, we are a huge melting pot of different cultures, different beliefs, different genders, different ideas. And it's important that we have spaces that are culturally relevant to our belief systems, our ideas, our culture, and use that to really build upon of our place in this world, our place in society, and be able to have those building blocks so that we can be successful in this realm of the majority. So I think that houses like the Boys Hope, Girls Hope Home is critical in ensuring the long-term success of, girls in the African American culture.
Keisha, what you're talking about allows us to define success for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The more we are able to, like to Ashley's point, step out there, take risks, try things, fail, learn from it. We don't have to just conform or to live up to someone else's definition of success, because that in itself can be something that holds us back from stepping into our greatness and living into our destiny. So I appreciate you lifting that up.
Thank you.
Shadora.
I agree. I definitely think that the Boys Hope, Girls Hope House is absolutely, it's like perfect. Like, we need more of those Boys Hope, Girls Hope homes, because I've seen a lot of my friends who fell by the wayside. A lot of people I grew up with, they didn't have opportunities to grow and to become successful or to become leaders because things happen. They was left out on the street. They were, not able to make it. And I also like to resort a lot of times back to Dr. Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of a Negro Woman, and how he talked about a woman educates and empowers and encourages her household. A man can have a baby and then he could leave and then he goes to work and come home. But it's the mother that's in the household. She teaches the baby. She teaches the kids. She nurtures them. She's their first teacher. She's their educator. She's like everything that they need. And for such of a person like that, as a leader, as a parent, it takes a lot. So this home and having a safe space for girls to just thrive and not just survive or be out here making crazy decisions and mistakes that we can help them learn from, which is really, really amazing. So definitely, Patrice, the work that you do is well needed. I thank you on behalf of the girls in advance. I just it makes me so happy. It's important.
Yes. Well, ladies, thank you for showing up as only you can. The lessons and reflections that you've shared have truly been a gift and will undoubtedly be impactful. And speaking of impactful, I'd love to turn it over to Patrice to tell us just a little bit more about the Hope House. Patrice, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'm actually going to show you all the virtual grand opening, the video of our house. And I'm excited for you to see it. It has been a year-long journey. And so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. 1 second here. Can you all see the screen? Thumbs up? Okay. 1 second here.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm 16 and I'm in 12th grade. Welcome to our Hope House.
Hi, I'm Dr. Patrice Johnson, the Executive Director for Boys Hope Girls of Detroit. Thank you for joining us for this virtual experience as we share with the world a 21st century urban boarding program here in the heart of Detroit. This house is more than its beauty, its design, its trauma-informed influence. It is a space for girls of color to develop their innate resilience and leadership skills. We are thrilled to house this program here, and we hope that you would join us and invest in our efforts towards social equity for girls of color.
Okay, that is the Hope House. I'm so glad that you guys, you're a part of us celebrating this accomplishment for our organization. And along with, I'd love to thank the Carl Foundation. Their initial gift of $100,000 is what helped us to see this vision become a reality, along with Metri Interiors, who worked with me side by side to design the home. But as I was mentioning in that clip, it's a beautiful house, but the house goes far beyond the beauty of the home. But it is about providing that safe space for girls of color to develop their leadership skills and to learn from the lessons that you guys have just shared in a very intimate setting. Tiffany, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thank you, Patrice, for showing us the home. And Ashley, Kiesha, Shadora, and Patrice, thank you so much for making time to give just a little bit of the wisdom that you all hold to the next generation of leaders. We appreciate all that you have done, all that you are doing, and all that you will do for the city that we all love. Thank you, ladies.